Got some rain right now while I make a video. I want to make this one quick. This is for my friends, a little word, a little encouragement. If you are dealing with trauma and feel like you don't recognize yourself, or like maybe you lost parts of yourself that were core to your identity. When the nervous system is processing trauma that is too big to actually hold, to feel, especially if you've been a victim to something terrible or unthinkable or traumatic or insane or impossible, and you'll know if that resonates with you, if it does. What happens is the psyche sometimes almost breaks off different core identity parts of yourself in order to make room, so to speak, to process and intellectualize and understand and integrate the trauma itself. So that's why when we get traumatized, we forget who we are, or we experience a sense of identity loss. But it's nothing to actually be afraid of or let get to your head or agree with in your head. Because trauma and the intensity of it and the demandingness of it will make you or trick you into believing that you are not who you really are, or you're not capable of one day having a great relationship, or one day having children and being a great parent, or having a friendship that will last, or experiencing love if you've experienced abuse, or like whatever your situation is. But I want to just remind you that your trauma, even if it's so severe that you don't have energy beyond surviving and breathing and eating and sleeping, even if you don't have energy beyond just basic survival, that doesn't mean that you are not still destined to be who you want to be in your heart. And when you're in a trigger, when you're in a trauma, when you're processing something severe, you might have a phase or a period of time, might be a few days, might be a few months, might be a few years, where you almost don't recognize yourself because certain character traits or desires or visions that you have for your life, they stop making sense in the context of your trauma. For example, here's a personal one. I want to have kids one day. I want to be a mother one day. And that's always been a part of my identity. Since I was 13, I was able to name that. And since I was young, I knew that I would one day have babies. And it's just always been a part of me. I've always felt meant to do that, for example. And same thing as, with the relationship. I always have known that I'm meant for a life partner, marriage, whatever. It's always something that I've wanted. But recently I've been processing some trauma so severe and so much bigger than my nervous system has the capacity to handle that it's actually coming out in ways where my skin is getting triggered with rashes and flare-ups because the emotion, the processing, the toxicity of it's too intense to just breathe through and feel. It's actually interrupting my health and it's interrupting my thinking. And the trauma that I've felt in the context of healing that, there is no room to even consider becoming a mother or consider having a partnership or consider any of that stuff. Because the state emotionally on a nervous system level, like biochemically that I am living in while I'm being triggered and healing and releasing these traumas makes no room. It leaves my psyche no choice but to push aside these parts of my core identity, which include my desire for a partnership and my desire to have children and raise children. Does this make sense? So this is why I'm telling you, I want you to recognize if you are experiencing a severe trauma, healing from it, and you feel like you're experiencing identity loss, you feel like you don't recognize yourself, and you feel like your long-held dreams are maybe slipping out of your fingers, here's what I want to remind you. That is your psyche being intelligent and almost putting those aspects of your identity, your desires, your dreams, your visions for yourself, your future, that is your psyche and your soul and your spirit putting those aspects of your identity into a cabinet to be stored away safely. Those parts of you are being protected. Because right now, you're surviving, you're healing trauma. And it's going to take as long as it needs to take to flush out of you. Just like when we're detoxing physically. Sometimes detoxing comes out through the skin, sometimes we throw up, sometimes it comes out the other end, you know, and it takes time and patience and consistency and gentleness to actually detox and move the crap out of the way so that our cells can absorb the good stuff. And in a parallel sense, so that our psyches can keep and operate under the good stuff, aka our soul callings, our dreams, our identity. So do not be discouraged if you're experiencing a sense of identity loss through your traumatic experience. And I'm saying this from personal experience. This disclaimer, this is not professional medical advice by any means. This is personal experience, personal story, personal encouragement that you're not crazy. You haven't lost your dreams. Your dreams are not impossible. And if your mind tells you that they are, that's just your mind trying to wrap itself around and understand this terrifying feeling of losing a part of your identity. But you're not actually losing it. That's just, again, what the psyche and the ego does to process a severe trauma, because when you're processing something so intense and heavy, there's no room in your life to be a mother, to be a father, to be a committed partner. You don't actually have the room or the space to live out your dreams. And because that's your experience, you don't have room for it, you don't have energy for it. Your brain starts to think, your mind, your ego starts to think, oh, maybe I'll never have it. Maybe it's going to be impossible forever. But that's not true. It just means that right now there's some healing, and it's like a sickness. It's like a physical sickness, but it's emotional. And when you're sick, you can't go to work. You have to rest. You have to eat. You have to be taken care of. And same thing when you're emotionally sick, you need to rest. The body, the heart, the soul, the emotions, they will work themselves out. They will heal. You have to give your attention, your energy, your commitment to allowing those things to process. And your nervous system has its unique pace and capacity to process these things. And when emotions are bigger than you can actually digest in one sitting, that's what sometimes causes the manifestation of depression or anxiety, or, you know, mental illness, or, you know, just, this is from my observations, my experience. So I really hope that this helped. And I'm sending you so much love. And you will become who you want to be. You already are. This is just a scary part of the process. It's just psychological fragmentation. And it doesn't mean that you're actually lost. It just means that your mind, your body, your ego, your flesh is doing what it was designed to do. And it doesn't mean that your dreams or desires or soul path or mission or purpose are sabotaged or impossible or lost on you. You're just sick. You just have an emotional flu, you know? You just have an emotional broken leg, and it needs time to heal. And you can't be a runner with a broken leg. You can't be a weightlifter with a broken leg. You know? You can't carry a baby on your hip and walk around with a broken leg. You know? The broken leg has to heal. Or you gotta get a wheelchair so you can hold a baby. You know what I mean? So just be gentle with yourself, and I hope that this helps you recognize, find some sanity, find some peace if you're going through a situation where you feel like you don't even recognize yourself, you're forgetting who you are. I hope this gave some insight, context, support as to, just to give you peace, and also to let you know that, like, you know, you're not alone, and I understand what you're going through, and this is a common experience that not a lot of people really put words onto all the time. But I got to process this today, so I just wanted to share while it was fresh in my brain. With that, sending so much love. Okay, bye. See you next time.